Everyone. I am Dee from H&D Abroad. H is going to get a cord so that we don't power out during today's live. Thank you all for joining at a time that is not normally ours. So we are joining early because there was an issue. We had planned to be here another week, and our Airbnb got flooded. We've got two major events in Mexico City, one that's very near the hotel where we are this morning. So we have to be at the airport extra early, like 5 hours early, because it took us an hour and a half yesterday to go 17 miles. So yeah, we're going to start this early. We wanted to make this presentation while we were in Mexico and partner with two of our friends to talk about the reality. So let me introduce myself. I'm going to back all the way back up. I'm Dee. H is on the way, my husband. We are the host of H&D Abroad that centers the Black Move Abroad process, specifically for Black couples as a way to leverage their money to create generational wealth, but also to embrace a healthier lifestyle. If that is something that really is of interest to you, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and set notifications, because we go live sometimes a couple of times a week. And we want to make sure that the folks that want to hear this information, that you are getting those notifications. So want to stop and say good morning to our friends and folk that are joining this morning. Good morning, Rita. Good morning, Servant Teacher Nikki. I want to go ahead and bring in our partners that are going to just be straight up honest. If you got questions, they've got answers, because they are doing the thing. So thank you, Tracy. And thank you, Cedric and Bobby, for joining today. So the Mrs. Tracy Collins, please introduce yourself, tell people where they can find you, because we're going to reference the journey that you're sharing on your channel. And then Agent Grateful, Bobby, and Cedric, if you all will introduce yourselves next.
Hey everyone, thank you so much, Dee and H, for having me. I'm excited to be here because Dee and I have gone live a couple of times together, but this is the first time that I'm being joined by your husband. So I'm excited to be here and have this conversation. This is definitely a unique experience. So on my channel and what I do, I really specialize in business, travel, and lifestyle, and I document my life abroad. And I go live every Friday night, which I call Friday Night Live, and I talk about usually what we're experiencing in the moment and what's happening and keeping people up to date in the process.
Thank you. All right.
And hello, everyone. We're Aging Grateful. I'm Bobby.
Cedric.
And we are in Puerto Vallarta, and we are on a journey of learning this thing called Mexico and moving abroad. And also we are very passionate about the pre-retirement experience and helping other people who may have been in our situation to plan for retirement at an older age.
Well, I mean, I think we should just get right into it. We want to make sure that you remember this is a
conversation. I always say that. So when you all jump into the chat, please remember to put your questions in, put your thoughts in. We are learning from each other. So if we can do that, it makes this flow easier, and we'll get settled here right today.
Yeah. So Tracy, did you want to share where you are so that people kind of have a reference? So Cedric and Bobby are in Puerto Vallarta.
So I am in San Miguel de Allende.
All right. So I think we should start with What do y'all think a soft landing was when you were planning your move? So, each of you all have shared kind of your backgrounds to, did you have a long opportunity to kind of plan, or did you, I decided on Friday and then 2 weeks later we're in place? What did the soft landing that you anticipated look like?
Yeah, Tracy,
That's a loaded question.
Yeah. Who wants to start?
I'll let Sid and Bobby go first.
Thanks, Tracy.
Oh man, we had, to be honest, I mean, if you know our story, we had literally no intentions of moving abroad. Hadn't even thought about it. It wasn't even on the radar. We just happened to come to Mexico on a vacation and kind of fell in love with the place and what was going on. So we decided we would come back and do what we now know as a scouting trip.
Yeah. We didn't know it was a scouting trip, or that's not what it was called.
Yeah. So we came back for about 3.5 weeks, and we stayed in different parts of town just to see if we can do it. I know I've been working remote for 10, 15 years, so that's that wasn't an issue for me. But I wanted to make sure that we could, something I could do from here without any problems. And then from there, we kind of was going back and forth between here in the States to, we were kind of planning almost on the fly.
Yeah.
Kind of. So we ended up finding a place here that was
what we thought was a good choice.
Well, it was a decent choice, but it was at our we talked about this on our channel. We did a swap, right? We said, okay, we have this car payment. If we get rid of this car payment, we can use that money to rent a place in Mexico. Even if we're not there full time, we can go back and forth.
Which is what we did.
Which is what we did. So that's kind of how we kind of balanced that, zeroed out that budget item, and then we just started coming back and forth and kind of planning it that way.
And then we just decided, no more of the U.S. We got to go. We have to go, and just sold everything. I mean, it was literally over the course of a few weeks that we sold everything, rented our place out, and committed to this full time.
Well, that was a few weeks, but the planning up to that was probably about 6 or 7 months. So it wasn't like that fast. But it was pretty fast. So
take it away.
Y'all did the ease-in version.
So in my particular case, I have wanted to live abroad as early as 2015. And so I own my own corporation. I've set my life up to where I can take my laptop and work from anywhere. So that wasn't the issue. The issue really was convincing my honey that I want to go. We need to go. I did 5 years with you in the States. Now you're going to do, we hitting it. So that was really my hardest part. But we did several scouting trips. I think in total we did about 3, and we did all of Quintana Roo, we did Merida, we did Jalisco, we did Puebla, and of course Mexico City. And now I'm in San Miguel de Allende. So it was just a process of elimination for us, and the entire time took about a 1.5 years. Honey's timeline may be different from mine, but to me it took about 1.5 years. Sold everything, which I now have feelings about that I didn't think I was going to have. So, yeah.
Ooh, okay, Trace, I'm making a note because I want to come back to that. Because, the idea of the soft landing is a phrase that we use to say this process can be easier. You don't have to, it's not an uphill every way. I think when we did the title plan versus reality, that part is where you get the jokes of, okay, so I really thought that I was going to have to focus my energies in one area and didn't realize, like we didn't think, we're like, it's an Airbnb. Who's thinking your Airbnb is going to flood at midnight and you're going to have to find somewhere to stay at 3 a.m. You can't reach out to your network. We talk about community. You can't do that at 3 o'clock in the morning. So where did you anticipate that you were going to have to put your energy in, and what was the reality of where you actually had to spend more time than you thought in the initial part of moving abroad?
I guess I'll go first. So I think we anticipated our energy being spent on getting acclimated to different time zone, different culture, of course, language barrier. Where we really had to put our focus on for us was finding a place to live. And that was something that we did not see being an uphill battle that we experienced in Mexico City. And it was extremely costly, unnecessarily costly, and we didn't anticipate that.
I think
And there's a lot of red tape and bureaucracy. Sorry, Bobby. A lot of red tape and bureaucracy, and it felt like we were playing reindeer games. And by almost month 2, my CEO hat went on. My boss testosterone kicked in. I was like, I don't care whose feelings I'm hurting. This is how we're moving.
well, for us, I think we could say, I will say it's an adjustment with learning how things work here in Mexico, not necessarily, like you said, culture and stuff. I mean, those are things that I think constantly we're learning about. But for us, getting our residency and knowing that we had to have this flexibility of not leaving like we planned, like we definitely planned that we were going to be here for probably maybe a week or two, and that turned out to be a couple of months of waiting to get our residency cards and trying to be okay and understanding that this is how it works sometimes and you have to be okay with it. I mean, that was a shock because we're like, who can we talk to? Where do you go? How do we write to somebody or email or call, and none of that applies necessarily here. And so that for us was, I think, one of our biggest, right?
Yeah, that and exactly what Tracy mentioned too with the housing. I mean, we moved 3 times, and initially we got the cheap, place, and so, oh, this will be fine, but then once you get in there and you start living in there, because even during the scouting trip, you're only in these places for a week or two, but once you get to a place and you start to settle in, and then you start to say, okay, this is not going to work. I thought this was going to work, but this is not going to work. So spending all this extra money that you didn't anticipate was definitely another thing that we ran into as well. So absolutely 100%.
Yeah, 2 things I want to address. First, as with all settings, there's that honeymoon. We've stayed in 2 different Airbnbs this week. One we used last year, and it's hard for me to even describe. The apartments are inside apartments. So where your living room is, the window outside your living room is the courtyard to somebody else's courtyard. So they turn around, they look directly into your living room. Your courtyard is off of your bedroom, which is off of somebody else's kitchen and living room. So you're never outside. Everything's inside. The second place we stayed at.
But the advantage was that the outside noise
it was always quiet.
It was always quiet.
But it was always dark or dim in the place because there was the natural light didn't flow down the course of the courtyard building. The building was 6 stories high. The second place, nice little cozy little place, the one we just had to leave, but the street life was right outside the window, and her windows were like paper thin. I mean, I was just like, is the window closed or is it open? It's like everybody was standing in the living room with us. The
Somali man was calling
at midnight.
Yes,
on the microphone.
Yeah, the gas person going through the street was letting us know. I was just like, and then there was a taco stand across the street. Someone selling snacks. I was just like,
and you don't know that till you're trying to go to sleep.
Right.
So the question I have is, in the YouTube universe, we use common phrases for the algorithms, for the clickbait, is soft landing the phrase soft landing misleading?
Yes. That's the short answer. And the reason why I would say yes is because you're going to be fatigued in areas that you didn't expect. And you're going to face hardships that you didn't anticipate. So in our case, we went to Mexico City, which is a metropolis. And Mexico City is easy to have rose colored glasses on because you're distracted by all of the bells and whistles, the things to do, the aesthetics of the city. But when you're scouting versus trying to establish yourself and live, then those are two different situations. And in our experience, for me, I can't, say for Honey, but for me, it definitely put a bad taste in my mouth. Do I think it's an amazing place? Absolutely. Do I think there's a ton of things to do? Most definitely. Will I want to live there? Absolutely not. The way that they're making it so difficult for foreigners with the price gouging, with the housing situation, the limited housing situation, and what's available, they inflate the prices on top of inflation. So, and then if you have other intersectionalities, they don't want to rent with you. And then in our case, we were told yes 3 different times by 3 different properties, and looking at properties in the interim. So we looked probably closer to 20 properties and to just leave.
Yeah, Tracy did 2 episodes. Like, I was sitting with my mouth open. They want $10,000 up front. They want you to have a local job. I'm a resident. I was upfront about those things. Yeah, the plan versus the reality, the living in an Airbnb, staying in an Airbnb is going to be different from the criteria that's needed to, to find a place to live. I think that's the first thing you have to do. And to be faced with that up front is difficult. What about you all, Cedric and Bobby? Based on what Herman was asking, what was it like for you all?
Is it really a soft landing?
Let me say this. It depends on your criteria of soft landing.
I'll say softer.
Softer. It's a soft landing from the standpoint of, for us, ease of access to get back to the States and things like that. But to Tracy's point, all the other things come into play, right? They do things different here. Like with the housing, they want last month deposit. They want, you're paying triple whatever it is that the whatever it's renting for. I mean, that's pretty normal. That's a pretty normal thing.
Or you may have to be paying in pesos.
Cash.
Like not,
Yes.
we're used to paying, with either like a check or electronically or something like that. And a lot of these places, that is not the case.
They want 50,000 cash, pesos, cash.
Pesos, every month, and trying to take that out. So those are also things to consider. Like I said, we fell in love with Puerto Vallarta, and we are still learning. We've been here. We said we've been here back and forth for over a year, and we are still learning.
Yeah. Almost to Tracy's point, we just talked about this the other day. Is this because we said we're going to do a 2-year commitment here until our youngest graduate. Would this be a place that we stay? Probably not, because it's getting I won't say expensive, but it's comparable to the U.S. I mean, it's the more touristy the area is, the more the prices go up. So you really don't see that much a difference. You may see a difference in food costing and things like that if you shop local, but housing and stuff like that, I mean, it's getting harder and harder. I mean, these rents are going up and up and up, and that's one thing we did not kind of anticipate. So we found a place where we're at, and we're just going to stay put because, moving from place to place, it gets more expensive every time every year it just keeps going up.
One of the things that I've noticed from watching you all's pages and various other pages of those of us who are still in the middle of our lives, We're not 20-year-olds, backpacking the countries. We're not, 65-year-olds all, retired with our feet up on the beach. Life is life, and we got work to do. We get up in the morning.
Yes.
It is a completely different, it's a completely different battle. It's a completely different adjustment because you're saying, okay, this young person who's tagged along with us, how do I get them set up in the processes that they need to get set up? Is this housing affecting my income and budget just like it was at home? Softer landing is probably a better phrase because I'm hearing a lot with our demographic group. A lot of we moved here, we moved there, we moved here, we moved there. We're in this place, we had to get out, we moved, we changed. And some of that is, the rent changed, the economics of the place changed. We recognize we need to be closer or farther. Yeah, there are so many pieces that affect that aren't always accessible through a scouting trip.
Mm-hmm.
And it's why I always tell people, the people who are brave who do the sight unseen, that's a brave group of people. Yeah, even in the States, to move to a spot that somebody showed you a picture of is why, even if with Jewel ran down in Ecuador, love Jewel. I mean, Jewel is specific, man. You got video, you got all the information, but I would still go down to Ecuador and spend a little time because the environment might not meet, your expectations.
So you all are talking about your indivial. So Honey's not here, so it's
I always have to represent for both of us, and I wish she would join
I
because she
know.
adds such a great context. But I'll do my best.
It's one thing to experience this as a wife. Like I want to nest. I want to find a place within 30 days that is mine, and then I want to make it out, ours. Tracy was probably the first guest that I had on that we talked about our plants. We are plant mamas, and I can't bring my plants, but I need a permanent place to nest out. What was it like, Bobby and Tracy, to watch your partner help support you and then to experience what that transition from this isn't the soft landing we thought?
That's a good question.
Well, I think in our case, we do a great job of balancing one another. Mm-hmm. And so my weaknesses are her areas of strength and vice versa. So we're able to execute those when needed and necessary. Ironically, Mexico City was her only choice. And for me, it was never a choice. And it was something like, okay, if this is what we need for you to be comfortable for us to relocate, then absolutely, this is, I can deal with Mexico City. So when it was time to go, she was done. Like she was packing once Thursday morning hit, and I told her all of the steps that I had made for us to get to move forward and leave. She was packing, she was mentally closed off, and then she was like, I'm ready to go. And me, I was a little bit disappointed that it didn't work out. And so it was interesting watching the shift, but I will say is in San Miguel, it has definitely been a soft landing. I will say that 100% for us. It's been night and day. But giving your partner, for us, the opportunity to execute the skill set that's needed when necessary, and we were able to do that.
I would say that for us, like you said, this wasn't even on our radar. But when I saw how much he was excited about wanting to do this, because he was the one who was the mastermind behind going overseas. And I could see his heart and his desire for this. And I don't know, as a wife, I'm like, okay, I'm tasked with bringing this to fruition. You have the vision. I'm tasked to go ahead and be along side you and doing this. So once I saw that he was really serious, I jumped on board full force. I'm like, you know what, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. We're going to get out here. We're going to do this together. And for me, that has been a blessing because I'm transitioning. I still do real estate in Arizona, but more so trying to find out what I really want to do here as well. And so whereas I'm figuring that out now that we are resolved that we're going to be here. He's been wonderful with me processing how this is all going to work. So with that in mind, I just said, I'm here for the journey, and I'm going to support you and me, and we're going to do this thing together. And it has worked out tremendously.
So servant teacher Nikki asked here, what kind of tactics do you suggest for making it a more softish landing? Since I know that I recognize that it is unique to each person or sets of people. I recognize that. But are there some things in your opinion that you say, hey, this might have made it go a little smoother?
I'll start that because I got something on my brain before I forget about this question.
Go for it.
I think we might have talked about this before, is when you're doing your scouting and looking at YouTube videos and all that stuff, I would say one thing that we didn't think about that I don't think a lot of people think about is just like you have inflation in the US, you have inflation in these places. So if you're planning to move and your move is 2 years out, that cost is not going to look the same 2 years later, right? So you're doing all this budgeting and planning based off of whatever the situation is going on at the time, and then it may be totally different by the time you get there. So I would absolutely keep abreast of whatever is going on there. Check what the rents are there at the given time that you're looking. That would be one of the things and be realistic with yourself. I mean, the idea of colonial. That's what the the old Mexican style houses are called, colonials, right? So the idea of living in a Mexican colonial, they're beautiful houses. But there's a lot of things that you may not be able to live within those that you think you could until it's cute on that scouting trip, but then in the middle of the night when the taco man's outside the window, and one thing that they don't really have over here is a good insulation. So you're going to hear all that. And just every now and then there's a restaurant right downstairs that shines a big bright spotlight right through our window. I'm like, where does this come from? I mean, I almost went down there the other day. It's like, look, I had, did my translator, like, look, I'm going to have to tell this dude, look, you got to point your light somewhere else. But it literally comes right through the window. Wow. Right through the window. So there's things like that. You just really have to be realistic with yourself. You have to have a realistic budget.
Emergency fund.
Mm-hmm. The old saying our parents used to say, you get what you pay for. That's true. That's true. let's be real. So if you're able to deal with that, then you should be good. But I think the biggest thing is the inflation thing, because prices are changing here just like they are everywhere else in the world.
Trust me, we look at what we spent last year versus what we spent this year at the exact same time. It's not like, oh, it's slightly different. No, it's a completely different universe from a year ago. We're in the exact same space we were in a year ago. And it's like, whoa, okay, we won't be doing that this time. We're taking that off the agenda this time, because especially with us having come in this time with a different budget ourselves. Our budget has shifted in the past year. And because our budget has shifted in the past year and the financial state of where we are has changed, just since we've landed, we've reevaluated a lot of what the process is, and we're only here a week. So, you're talking about coming to settle down, you really need to understand what those shifts and changes are. Watching Bobby say, I'm in the store and this costs this much. I'm in the store and this costs this much. And here's some things you recognize and this costs this much. Those things, paying attention to what's happening in the community that's there has been really helpful too, because it helped us plan some of our, when you're a scouting trip is a fancy vacation. It's a longer term vacation still. So you're still eating out, you're still shopping, you're still, ooh, look, that costs less than it does at home. You're buying stuff you would never do when you're completely settled. And we've put stuff back on the shelf. I've been cooking out of these people's kitchens. Last night we had leftover food we have to eat before we get on the plane today. And I was hitting it in the microwave like I was microwave chef. I cooked the whole raw onion in the microwave last night because it would have been easier to just go down the street, pick up something to eat, step out to the curb, hit something from the taco man. But we got to go home.
If Tracy hadn't told me, you really need to get your housing straight before you leave, because normally what we do is we would just book our Airbnb for the time that we would be doing the business. And then we'd kind of figure it out. And she was like, no, darling, you coming during Dias de los Muertos. You need to get and you're going to be in Mexico City and the race is happening.
Formula One, yeah.
Yeah, the Formula One racing is right here. Darling, you got to get that. You can't have that level of flexibility. Having people on the ground is clutch, because that's not the center of my world. The political situation isn't necessarily the center of my world. Tracy, did you have anything you wanted to add to this part of the conversation?
I think for us, what has been key is making friends with locals. And I mean, I think the Black expat community is wonderful because people are going through the journey simultaneously, either before or after, during. But when you have people who are on the ground, accustomed to the culture, are natives that speak the language in the event of an emergency, when you need somebody, or if you just want to go out and have a conversation and meet other locals or have a casual social experience with them and get to know the place, and they can really give you the nuts and bolts of what you need. Mm-hmm. That has been essential in maintaining those relationships, not just when you need something or want something, but when we were in Mexico for the first time from, I want to say, starting in September of last year, I maintained all of those relationships for the year, until we came in August. And they were essential. And even still, we talked to our realtor in Mexico City. We talked to her yesterday or the day before yesterday. So we've maintained the relationships. And when I tell you, when it was so funny, because when we were sharing our experience about what was happening to us in Mexico City, the Mexicans were like, you can use our business. They really were stepping up. You can say you work for me, or we'll be your references. I'll get all of my cousins to be your references. It was those kinds of things that you wouldn't think about, because the Black expat community can't necessarily do that for you the way the locals can.
Ooh, y'all been laying down the word today. I'm hoping if people aren't able to join us live, that they definitely will come back and hear this, because I'm learning new things myself. So my next question is about soft landing, is because we're considering our 18-year-old joining us, and you all have young people. So as a parent, there is what you have prepared your young people that transitioned with you in this move abroad. They may have visited with you before. What was it like to watch them and support them as they are establishing themselves in this new move abroad space? Because they could be in school, they could be, finding remote work. And so, Tracy, did you want to start? Because your daughter gave me something that I shared with our daughter about how she was getting her money straight. Cedric, before you all start, I want to say something that you just triggered, and I know I'm going to forget it. Emergency fund is good. You need to make sure you've got steady money coming in. Mm-hmm. because you cannot live off your emergency fund because you anticipate a rate of usage, and I can guarantee you're going to spend more than what you anticipate getting started and even maintaining yourself, because inflation is not static.
And if something happens and you get stuck in a place for a while and all you have is your emergency fund, you're going to run out faster than you expected to. Emergency fund is essential. Have it. It is essential, but have some income that comes in, whether it's passive or active, that you can say, okay, I need to slow down over here, but I got this coming in that'll keep me balanced. I think that that's very important.
All right, Tracy, you're a young person.
Oh, mahogany soul. Okay, so I will take full responsibility of spoiling this 19-year-old girl of ours. She is the baby, so she has gotten the best of me as a parent. Because when I had my first at 17 and my second at 24, mahogany has been able to experience me different. As a result of that, I have created a person who wants to leisure her way through life, because I was able to give her things that I wasn't able to have growing up. However, one of her best attributes is she's extremely resourceful, and she can find a job at the blink of an eye. What she did before we left was she started a job with AT&T working remotely. And she's since transitioned out of that job, but she's looking for something else. So we have been spending a lot of time pushing her. What she has shared is she loves Mexico City. She even loves San Miguel, because San Miguel has it. You hear like, oh, it's an old retiree town. Child, there's a good mix here of people. There's a lot of young people moving here because they can't even deal with the States. So she likes it for different reasons. And so she's able to, should she choose to go into, educational experiences that are creative and also impactful, to where she can add that into her arsenal. However, it's getting her motivated. There's still the cultural barrier. There's the language barrier. We also spend time with her telling her, you need to utilize your 3 years of Spanish, because her articulation, her pronunciation is excellent, and her comprehension is really good too. So it's really just about getting her out of the house and helping her immerse herself into the culture that will only help her expedite her experience. Now she's on a tourist visa now. We have residency. She, plans to go back to the States. She definitely misses her friends. So that piece is really hard for her to deal with. But in her brain, she's like, if I go and go into the States, and if I don't like it, I'll come back, because she has her parents here. We've seen her more so trying to adjust socially than anything, and helping them utilize that, getting them out of the house, going on neighborhood walks, encourage them to speak, so they can learn. She'll become quiet, and we're like, you need to talk. And so I will purposely not be the mother, and I'll be quiet, because honey's like, you need to be quiet. You need to let her execute her skills. So I'm working on that. So that has been it's been interesting. It's been interesting, because teenagers these days, especially my Pisces, she's not really a sharer of her feelings and experiences. So we find ourselves having to pull from her.
I think also for us, I love, Tracy, what you said. So we have a blended family, and we have 10 children together. So we have 2 left, 17-year-olds, a boy and a girl, and our 17-year-old daughter is with us. They are getting the best of us now as parents. But she's been doing online school for well before we even got here. She is in the midst of Spanish, so she's learning. She's being able to utilize the Spanish. Usually you go to class and then that's it, whatever your homework is. But she's getting to be able to use what she's learning at the same time, which I think is really great to be able to immerse yourself in the culture and as you're learning it in school. So I think that is a benefit to her. But as teenagers, of course, social skills are lacking, and us as parents, even in the States, she was very quiet, not very sociable. So she's just transferring that here as well. So I think that's a good conversation in and of itself with parenting, with kids abroad, because I think we're all seeing the exact same thing, no matter where they are or where we are. That this is who they are. But I think being able to see something new, and I'm grateful that we have that opportunity to show her just not this one side of life, right? That there are so many different opportunities out there. Your border is limitless. Although we say, that there are borders here for different states and countries, but to you, baby girl, it is limitless.
Yeah, and I think getting her out too, because what we do now is, if we're going out to get something to eat or walk, whatever, there's no bringing you something back. If you want, you need to get up with us.
Right.
And there's none of that. So, you spoil our kids, we'll go, I'll bring you something back. No, this is the rule. You want something, you need to get up with us. And I get it. A lot of teenagers, we all around the same age. We think we cool, right? And a lot of teenagers don't want to hang with their parents, because I didn't want to hang with their parents back in the day. But it feels different now that we're the parents, right? It's like, what? Come with me. It's like, but yeah, I think for her, and she's very smart. She is very creative, artist. She edits a lot of our videos. She has all those skills. She's a comedian. Once you get to know her, she opens up, but just trying to drag that out of her. And I, because I was a military brat and moved all over the world, and I know back then I took these places for granted. But as I got older, I understood. I've been there. I remember, and I know that's what the same thing's going to happen with her. So and my thing, like we were just talking the other day, I said, well, if you're going to sit in your room all day and not want to go anywhere, then this don't have to be a soft landing for us. We might as well go travel. You know what I'm saying? If because the point was to come here so you can get out and get immersed. But if you're not going to do that, then we'll travel to all these different places, and you can sit in your room there and do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So,
but also I want to say this. I am grateful because doing this, we are noticing the dynamics of our relationship with our daughter, Amy, because it's almost like now she is listening and having more dialogue because of the fact that we're not in the United States. And there are things that she wants to know and ask questions about, and we can have a real good, solid conversation. Whereas the distractions of what's going on in the United States and having access to all this stuff is a little bit different now. So now it's like we're having a little bit more dialogue and conversation, and our relationship with our daughter is a little bit more stronger, I feel, because we're able to engage more being here.
Tracy, have you noticed that? Have you noticed a shift? Because I thought it was just us. And our son actually looks forward to, he's talking about when we come back. And I was like,
he said we.
Have you noticed that, Tracy?
So for me, Mahogany has always been my Velcro. That was, a slight nickname that I gave her. But I noticed the difference with her and Honey. Not that they weren't close, but Honey came into her life when Mo was 14. And so you can't tell Mahogany that's not her other parent. Like, you're delusional if you do. So their relationship, and Honey has never been the type of person to force herself onto anybody. And she really took her time with developing a relationship with the kids. And so with Mo, like, that is her other parent. Like, she calls her the responsible one. Like, so they have their own and I remarked on it with Honey. I told you, you guys y'all just seeing you two really has, made this process so much fulfilling for me, seeing that relationship continue to, because out of the 3 children, she's the closest to her. And they're all close, but she's the closest. Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I've noticed in our community of YouTubers and the Black expat is that we have our babies with us.
Mm-hmm.
And our youngest have a different personality all their own because they are the baby, no matter how close or far they are from the rest of the kids. And our son said to us, I've been waiting for them 2 to get out so that I can have you all alone. And so there's been an outpouring of some of his personality and conversation that these trips have extended on. He's been a little frustrated this week because he's in college and his college classes have taken up his time. So he's been in the room doing work, testing the whole time he's been here. And he's like, okay, I didn't get to do anything. I didn't get to see anything. But like last night, I was like, when your mom and I are downstairs eating, he ate later, but he came and sat down with us. He was on his phone the whole time. You talk about that social piece. I told Dee that I might leave him home when we move so that his move is his choice. Mm-hmm. He will happily tag along, but he's doing just that. He's tagging along. So he is not trying to talk to anybody. He's not trying to engage. We went to the store a couple of days ago and he hadn't eaten because we had been out. And I was like, go in this restaurant, get yourself something to eat, sit down and eat. We're going to go in the store. We'll come out. He was like, no, I don't want to eat alone. So we go into the store. He would rather have been hungry than to go in and sit down and eat. And he waited for me to come back and cook a whole meal before he ate. And it was late. And he, those kind of things concern me because he's online all day. He's got an earpiece in his ear. He's talking to people. And I'm like, are you talking to me? You talking to somebody? All day. But get him into the environment to flush with people.
It's a struggle.
He's not transitioning without us. My father's a minister. We moved around a lot, moving and engaging in spaces. So I lead in this process. Dee is from where she's from. And so I don't care that they don't understand me. We'll figure it out. The 2 of them tend to be more, hey, I need, I don't want to sound crazy. And I'm just like, I'm a Black man in the country where I don't speak this language. I already look crazy. Let's do it. And trying to get that process into him has been a real bit of a challenge. I think if my older children were here, some of them might adjust a little easier because they have to. That's the space they're in. But my youngest is struggling a little more socially. I think I've heard everybody use that word, socially. They're adjusting. And when I listen to Lamar and Angela, and I listen to Cartest of Move Abroad and Thrive, and I listen to all these people who have our Exodus life, and they have our babies with us, and they're behind us, and we're trying to find that way to flush them out. I agree with you, Said, either this is a part of your process as a part of our process, or you're doing this and we're doing that. And I think I'm closer and closer to challenging whether or not I'm going to make him move here or wherever we move. If he's going to come with us, that he does it on his own timeline. He does it in his own time because he's going to be 19. I need you to choose in all aspects of your life. I need you to choose. So.
I want to make sure as a part of the soft landing conversation, you don't shut your U.S. life off once you move. Usually there are some still pieces that need to be tied up. I think each of you all have shared about your housing, whether that's renting or selling, cars, the things that you leave behind, physical, material things, as well as you have other children in the U.S. What does this move abroad process look like for tying things up? You're having to now have feet both in the U.S. and in Mexico. What is that like for you all? Because Cedric and Bobby, I know y'all are, half the time we call y'all in the States. Half the time we call you all, you're in Puerto Vallarta. So what's the reality of when you decide to move abroad? the concern, the tie up, for leaving some aspects of your life in the U.S.?
We talk about this all the time.
So let me say this: what I've noticed, and I'm just gonna be real, because we have adult kids. What I've noticed is that they are almost go back to what Herman just said. They are making choices for themselves on their own now that we're out of the way, so to speak. I think we do a lot of enabling our kids and trying, because we've all been through all kinds of stuff, so we can see when our kids are going to go down a route, and we try to reach in there and stop them from that. But really, the reality of it is that's the only way they learn. And I tell Bobby all the time, I said, had I not made those choices that I made, as dumb as they were, whenever they were, I would not be sitting here with you today. So we need to let them go through whatever it is. So
That's a father thing.
yeah.
It's a father thing.
And I'll give you a perfect
Struggle.
Yeah, as men, we say bump your head, run into that wall. They do that because I learned it because I ran into it versus I avoided it or somebody helped me steer away from it. Because they steered me away from it, I came back to it.
I want you to bump your head, but I want to put some pillows and stuff.
Yeah, give me some of that padding. That's my baby. Look, y'all.
I'll give you a perfect example real quick. Because I was in the U.S. a few weeks ago because my son has a volleyball tournament. So one of my daughters there, I stayed with my mom and my sister, and they were like, oh, my daughter, she's out catching the bus at 4:00 in the morning, and she's walking to work, and she's this and that, and she needs a car, and she needs to move out here with us, and this and that. And I'm like, so as a father, of course, it's my daughter. I'm like, okay, let me see what's going on. So I go pick her up, and I'm like, hey, your grandmother tells me you walking to the bus. Where's this bus stop at? Oh, it's right over there across the bridge. Oh, it's good exercise. I like getting out there, and I take the light rail. So what I start to realize is that we project our fears onto our children because we want them to have a better life. And I told my mom and sister, I said, she's living in the city. This is what city folks do when they don't have transportation. And I asked her about getting a car. She said, I can't afford a car right now. That tells me that she's maturing enough, right? Like, I can't do that right now. I'll just catch the bus. I'll just do this. And what we want to do is pull them out of that and say, oh no, let me let me help you out. Let me do this. But she's learning so much more. She's growing so much more now. And that was just one of the things I said, okay, but us being out of the way, as hard as that is sometimes, that's been a benefit.
Absolutely. And
Tracy? Go ahead, Bobby.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, and as far as the other things that are in the U.S., like the only thing that we had left because we sold everything is the home. And it's no longer ours. We look at it as it's an investment. That's all it is to us at the end of the day. It is an investment. We have given up everything that technically we consider as ours, and we're building ours here. Now, that's how we're looking at it.
Honey wrote me a note to share.
Thank you, honey.
It actually this topic.
Hey, I receive it. I receive it.
I'm gonna do my part. And furnished versus unfurnished place to live, and those expenses and what that looks like in your consideration of making it soft versus softer. What we have experienced, furnished definitely will make your transition abroad easier because you don't have to incur the expenses of buying things over. However, those furnishings may not be aesthetically pleasing and or comfortable. So it's like, so what we've learned is we were open to either or. What I do know is that our preference is to furnish. However, we sold our home and we have things in storage that we still want. So when you talk about putting things in storage, keeping that storage, the transportation it would take or the shipping that it would take to get them here, that's an expense that you have to allot for. And what that looks like, the time frame for that, talking to other people about what they did and who they used is another thing. As far as us having ties to the US, I really think my only tie are the people, meaning my mom and the two kids that are out there. For me, everything with the US, I've let go of. Honey is going back in a couple of weeks. She's going to go take care of some things. And her mom is there and she's going to check on our stuff and, take care of some business there. She's a little bit more, I don't like to fly. So it's like, I don't got to go back. You can go back for us, but I don't like to fly. I fly when I have to, or if I have a mission I need to accomplish. But it is mostly like you have to think about your health care. You have to think about your the doctor relationships, the medical records, the furnishings that you're leaving behind. We sold our car. I was happy to sell our car. She was fine too. However, now we're in San Miguel and it's like, crap, now we can get away without a car. However, it will be more convenient to have one, even though it's a small town. So just kind of adjusting to those realities and giving ourselves a timeline to where we decide when we're going to buy one, and what we're going to buy, So those kinds of things that you don't anticipate. One of the things, too, I want to make sure that we add into this conversation is the level of fatigue that people experience leaving the United States. That was something that caught me off guard. Yes. Our level of exhaustion. So not only are you dismantling your life and everything that you have come from, built and known for your entire life, and coming into a foreign country, different culture, languages, and all of that, all of that takes energy. That takes energy. So when you are trying to get yourself settled, you're experiencing a level of exhaustion from being in the States, just that process within itself and everything that comes with being in the United States, a Black person in the United States from the US, that trauma, that impact, bringing that with you, and then trying to acclimate yourself all along. Now you're compounded with this level of exhaustion that you need to. What I know now is that you need to give yourself at least a year to rest.
That's strong.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about the year off possibility wherever we decide to land. We've been talking about just to give ourselves a chance to separate ourselves from what we understand and know as a part of our 50 years worth of life history with one place, as well as trying to acclimate. I have had a lot of, and I need to do a separate video, I've had a lot of Black man triggers this week. I've had a lot of big city vibe triggers this week that are probably cultural things for them and are just setting my ticks off like crazy this week. That not moving over on the sidewalk so that we can both walk on the sidewalk. Where I'm from, that's an intentional thing where I think for them it's just a space thing. But it was setting me off. I was like, you see me standing here, just little things that I know I'm going to need time to take a deep breath and say, okay, this is not focused at you. This is not coming at you. These people are not trying to, and you need time to adjust to that. And it is exhausting. Mm-hmm. It is exhausting. It's like packing up your bags one day and knocking on somebody else's door and then moving into their house and say, I'm here. You don't know those people. You don't know what they eat, and it's that concept. And we take it for granted because we move in spaces, our American selves move in spaces with the freedom of we can go anywhere we want to, we can land where we want to, even in what we recognize as our restrictions as people of color. Mm-hmm. We still are American, and they see us as American. And, we go into these spaces, you got to dial it back, and you don't even realize that you have that, oh man, I can't believe I use that word. You have that privilege you carry on your shoulders as I'm allowed to, I have the freedom to, I can.
Or that I have the right. I mean, things like ADA and other rights that we have in the US don't exist in other places, and you can't move in the same way. that whether you are taking a year off and you are not doing anything, probably the thing that I would say is I'm going to move intentionally, because you can feel like, oh, now I've got all this time, I've got all this, all of these new opportunities are presenting themselves. Slow it down.
And your nervous
Your
system
body
needs
is
that.
taking those things in. You talked about that last night, Tracy.
Your nervous system needs it. When we were in Mexico City, all of our nervous systems were not settled. And the moment that we decided to leave Mexico City, it was like a breath of fresh air that you did not know you needed to exhale. Like you just did not know you need, and I knew I needed it, but to hear Honey and her experience of like this was the quiet, the slower pace that I didn't know that I needed. Mexico City again, those rose-colored glasses, because all the conveniences and the bells and whistles, and it's pretty and all of the things, but it's also all of the things like the tamale man, or the light being shined in your window, or the gas man, and the girl who comes around in the neighborhood to collect the mattresses, and all of the noises. Your system doesn't have time to rest. And so when you are on edge like that, you can't even think clearly. And you're in a space now to where you need to be executing with intention. And if you're not thinking clearly because your system can't decompress, then you're discombobulated altogether.
And that's been a conversation we had recently. Our judgment is flawed when we are tired.
Yes.
Yeah.
I look at it now that we're here, it's the opportunity for us to, I call it live again, because we are getting this opportunity to shape who we are and what we do. We are getting this opportunity. It's a clean slate for us here, though we have things that we still are responsible for, work and things like that. But the opportunity to be able to say, who am I? Not what I do, but
I hate that question.
who are we?
Yes.
And we're learning that each and every day.
Yes. And I think going back to the resting, the other reason why you need to rest is because you're about to come into a whole new set of challenges like that you need that rest for. For example, something simple. Yesterday, I was trying to get my internet changed, and I went and I had like the 700 meg. I said, I don't need that. I need 300. So I go online to the chat. I do, the Google Translate, try to back it down to 300 meg. They added 300 meg. So now I got a gig internet for $80, $90 a month. I'm like, no, I don't want this. And Bobby's like, well, I said, no, I'm going to go. So I asked on the chat, and I'm like, hey, no, this is wrong. I need to, well, you got to go into the office to do that. Just like any sales thing, right? Now we'll give you more, but to get less, you need to go talk to somebody so they can convince you to keep what you have. So I was like, just the anxiety of thinking I got to go down to this office, get a ticket, get in line, and talk to these people about my internet. And
is it worth it? I mean, literally, after a while, I started saying, look, like the lady was saying about Chick-fil-A, maybe this is what I really needed anyway. Is it really worth?
That's what Bobby was saying. She's like, well, is it really that? I said, it's not that. It's okay. Do we adjust our budget extra $50, $60 a month? Because we're too scared to go down and have a conversation with the thing. I said, no. So we go down there. And I pull a ticket. I typed up and see. I mentioned this to you guys earlier or before. Is Google Translate? If you're not fluent in Spanish, you can type out some stuff and save it in your favorites, so you can just pull it up, right? So I typed out all the different stuff, and then I went in there, got the ticket, and got to the window after about 45 minutes, and I was like, "Habla English?" She was like, "Nope," and I'm like, "Okay." I just started rattling off. She's like, "Okay, well, what's your number?" And I gave my number in Spanish, all that, and 10 minutes later, we were done. And all that relief was like, I'm just stressing myself out for nothing. So that gives me a little bit more confidence, to do it. But those type of things where it was almost like, you know what, we're just going to keep this internet and adjust our budget because I don't feel like, and those are real fears and anxieties that we have all the time. I remember I told you before, like I've walked past taco stands because I didn't have the confidence today to have to speak Spanish. So just sometimes you just have those
So you're
things.
right. It's different challenges, and you need the
You need the
rest
energy, yes.
to be able to understand that there are a new set of challenges that you are going to be experiencing. We're not going to, let's not put on the glasses and say we're not going to experience any challenges. Moving abroad in itself has its challenges. You may not have the same ones that you have living in the United States, so you might be the same, but the way things are handled are different, and we need to be able to handle that.
Going back to what Tracy said before I forget, local. It's good to have this Black community in our. Don't get me wrong, but the locals is where it at. We found out in this hurricane, and Bobby mentioned this before. Of emergency funds is something happened. I need to get back to the U.S. Okay, something happens, but what if I got to stay here? What does that look like? I need somebody locally that really knows what's going on and where I can go and who I can contact and all that stuff. It is so important to find Spanish-speaking
friends and family.
Especially if they want to learn English, even the more better. That's the fastest way you're gonna learn your Spanish. I'm realizing that local Spanish-speaking people that are want to learn English and want to learn more about you, and they're out there everywhere.
Tracy?
I don't know what else to say.
Y'all preaching today.
I would say let's get. We are examples that this can be done. Tracy, us. This is examples that this can be done, but we are also willing to share some of the things that go on that can make it a little bit challenging, so that other people can see that though it's doable, there are some things that you have to prepare yourself for, right?
Yeah. And you, like I keep coming back to the reality of it. Like I think you might have mentioned something. H. We live literally 6 minutes from the beach walking. I may go to the beach once a week if I'm lucky, because I'm it's everyday life. It's just like being in the US. I have everyday life and responsibilities here, just like I did there. I don't have time to go sit down at the beach with my feet kicked up on the umbrella. You know what I'm saying? So, it's that's how it is. Don't get me wrong, but it's,
And I do want to speak to people who are transitioning as a couple. It will test your relationship.
Baby!
It will test your relationship. So if your relationship is not strong before you leave, it ain't going to get no better coming abroad. Let me say that. However, the beauty is, if you guys are on one accord, like-minded, and on the same page, it will make you better and stronger and bring you closer together. So I think there's a lot of single people who move abroad, but when you are factoring in somebody else's experiences along with your new experiences and how they are, like, H just said, like his triggers was going off as a Black man. And I could just hear or imagine that and seeing my son, experiencing the same thing. So allowing that relationship to blossom, allowing your mate, your partner to exercise their area of strength, but also encouraging the newness, like you said, reinventing yourself. Like Honey's been talking about because San Miguel is such an artist town, so taking piano lessons, and it was going to the immersive language school that's here, like allowing them to go through that growing process, because you're both going to be reinventing yourself. But I think it just adds to the layer and the strength of the beauty and utilizing the strengths of each other.
I think it's also important to say that in most situations, there are circumstances, but in most situations, the locals are patient with us and are willing to work through the process with us. I've walked up to a lot of stressful, how am I going to say this? I said in our live on Tuesday, I feel like I've run into less English speakers this time than we did a year ago. It's like everybody's like, no, I don't speak. And I feel so but in every situation, we have gone through a verbal and a complete conversation. Danica had a appointment yesterday, and the young lady sitting across from her, I'm a context clues kind of person. I think it's why I struggle with language, because I'm gonna have to learn Spanish with my eyes closed so that I can hear it, because my brain is trying to see it. So I'm watching clues. I'm a visual person. I'm a visual learner. And I'm watching, so I'm telling her, she's telling you this, she's telling you that. She's like, how do you know that? And I was like, oh, it's this and it's that. I can recognize the words. I don't get the language, but I'm having full conversations, quote unquote, with the locals and working through, like said, once you get there and you get through it and you say, hey, here's my translator, here's what I got, here's what I can do. As long as you're showing an effort towards it, they'll effort back towards you, which takes a lot of that
emotional
anxiety off of the process. Is not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect.
Let's see. So we've got a navigation question.
Oh, we drove. We hired a driver. When we landed, we hired a shuttle company. And we befriended the guy, the owner of the shuttle company, and he moved us from one Airbnb. Not only did he pick us up from the airport, his company, then they moved us from one Airbnb to the next, and then they also drove us from CDMX to San Miguel. And he's also coming back to pick Honey up to drive her back to Mexico City Airport in a couple of weeks. And so this is, again, it's the local thing. It's like, even though he has a legitimate company and his company has great ratings, and when I tell you the drive, it's only a 3-hour drive. It was so beautiful. Like, even the drive itself was so refreshing, and seeing the wildlife and seeing the mountains and the greenery, and it's not that far. And you can, if you don't want to hire a private driver, you can take the local bus system, which is so amazing here.
Yeah. Okay. So you just opened up another one, because I know Cedric and Bobby have also used the local bus. Y'all, this is not Greyhound.
No.
This is living in the lap of luxury, moving across the country. I know Anita's in the chat. She can also talk about ETN. You guys have gone to several cities through ETN. Do you want to share a little bit about how a soft landing without a vehicle? Because in the U.S., if you don't have your own transportation, you're not going very far. So talk to us about how the transportation in Mexico has been a soft landing, even though you don't have your own, you don't have a car.
We Chevrolet a lot, but shove one foot and lay the other, which is great because it's exercise. We get to see things. We just did a video about this. Being that we are centrally located, we are near a lot of things. So we are blessed to be able to walk. Like you said, taking Uber for us is cheaper than it is in the States. And those are options that we've utilized in the past. Of course, taxis. But the ETN buses.
I don't even want to get on an airplane no more after being on that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was crazy.
Affordable?
Oh my gosh! Like, what was it?
We went to Guadalajara. It was $45, and we were in the front of the bus in big,
cushy chairs, lounged out, like
Wi-Fi access. Yo, you cannot get better.
I was like, what manner of comfort is this? Because I was blown away. And right before we had tried ETN, we had met a young gentleman and his wife, and he was talking about Mexico being a third world country. And I'm like, baby, where are you seeing this at? Because I am experiencing luxury at its finest, driving to another destination, and you're not getting that. And I'm just, it just blows me away.
Yeah, and I hear the airlines are the same way. The planes, the seats aren't all compact in the plane. We getting ready to take a trip to actually San Miguel. next month. But I hear the seats aren't all packed in the plane. There's plenty of room on the planes and stuff too. So yeah, it's definitely
Spoiled us.
it's definitely not what everybody has been kind of told, so to speak.
Yes.
I'll leave it at that.
And we took, I think we've had all three experiences. We've traveled by plane, bus, and car. So we rode or took a bus trip from Mexico City to Puebla last year. And it was the same luxury experience as Bobby and Sid just spoke about. Honey was knocked out asleep, and I'm looking out the window, and it was easy. And with the bus system, what people don't realize, I think they have unlimited baggage too, versus on a plane having to pay for your bags and having and our round trip for two people was $50. From Mexico City to Puebla, and we just rented a car because we wanted to acclimate ourselves to San Miguel quickly. We didn't want to, waste any time. And fortunately, it's small enough to where you can knock it out in like between 2 days to 4 days, depending upon your level of energy. But even the rental car process, it was easy. So that part, and we flew from Puerto Vallarta to Guadalajara. To me, those seats were cramped, but I can't remember the airline either. And I want to say it was not the luxury Mexico airline that everybody talks about. So I think that was probably my fault in booking. Oh, it was Volaris. Okay, so I'm getting notes, y'all. I'm getting notes.
Tell them to slide into that chair.
We've driven, so we've hired drivers. We've driven ourselves from Quintana Roo to Merida and back ourselves. So just be cognizant of the tolls and make sure that you carry change on you. Should you rent a car, you have to, I would say, 1,000 pesos, just so you can, because the tolls are not cheap. So you want to get through the tolls, but it has made traveling just so accessible for us.
And we don't feel like we're limited either as far as around places, even though we do not have a vehicle.
Right.
It's just set up or designed that you can get around quite easily if you do not have a vehicle.
And you want to walk. Yeah. You want to see.
You really do. It's where you find all the things. I mean, if I was driving, I would have missed all the craft shops. I would have missed the different restaurants. I found a vegan, it was a makeup store and vegan, like shampoo and hair products. You're going to miss a lot of things if you're not walking, but you got to get ready for the walking, because I walked, so we walked from the doctor's office to get my labs. And then from there, we walked to our favorite, which is one of our new favorite vegan places. That was a lot of walking, but it enhanced the experience.
I found 3 new chef's jackets last year. We was just strolling out, headed to get something to eat, and passed by a uniform store. And at first it was just scrubs. And I was like, oh, okay, scrub uniform. And then the next one, the guy had on a chef's jacket. And I was like, let me scroll in here. And I got 3 of my best chef jackets ever. Just because we were walking, been driving, I never would have seen it.
Never would have seen it. Let's see, we're getting good comments. People are sharing in the chat about their experiences, which airlines, because Delta uses Air Mexico, which is usually how we fly in through Atlanta, Tracy. So, just a lot of the things that can make a soft landing you guys have touched on. It's doable, yes. You, as a couple, you have advantages. Where you all have moving as a family with young people is possible. Staying connected to them so that they have the opportunity to express themselves, that they know that the door is always open, whether they want to stay or if they want to go back to the States. You're not completely going to untether yourself from the US. And so you will have, as a parent, as a homeowner, as a property manager, you're still going to need to have that tie, but it is within a perspective. Even if I get sick, get very sick, that is never going, that's probably the reason why I would not go back to the States, but that you can build a full life, whether it's Mexico, Colombia, Spain, Thailand, Japan, wherever you want to move to, you can build a full life. And a full life does not look like an expat community. Your full life will embrace the people, the food, the music, the cultural traditions. That makes a full move abroad. I have seen so many comments today about thank you for the transparency. I appreciate that you all are sharing this ain't for the faint of heart. If you out here trying to, have that cushy, no barriers, even if you had $1 million, it would be softer, but there's still going to be friction points. Tracy, did you have any other points that we didn't get a chance to touch on that you wanted to share in the space as we get ready to close?
I think like just paying attention, your needs, your wants will definitely adjust. I'm not as flexible as I thought I am, even though I'm pretty flexible. So learning that about myself, that has been, a learning experience. But also, maintaining those local connections, because they're also going to give you the resources to the services that you need. So, again, it's like that local family, because you're going to need, like, I need a plant guy. Like, that's essential for me. Like, that's a necessity. So when we're talking about like services that we want, I was like, I need a plant person. Honey's like, yes, I'm serious. That's not, so write that down. So know the services that you need and making sure you ask questions. There are people who are doing it. So just ask.
Okay, so one more plug for Tracy. So in addition to moving with a partner, moving with a young adult, she has the cutest dog.
Oh, child. Oh, my God. He's so rotten and spoiled.
Who is making more friends than all of us.
He changed since we moved. So he changed since we moved. What we learned about him, so back in the States, all he did was and wanted to do and was sleep and not go outside. Now it's like, we're going outside. No, we're going outside, and he cries when we leave. And so how he adjusted was, he's more like, he's not social. He doesn't really like being bothered, but he likes to be outside. He loves walking. He loves exploring new things. What else? The services for him, for people who are traveling with the pet. So register them as a service dog so you don't have to pay for their flight. That's really important. And Mexico City is a big, huge dog city, but here where we are now, they're really not. Mexico City, you can take your dog everywhere. But the services for him, from the grooming to the veterinarian, were so inexpensive and so affordable. It did not break the bank at all. So how much were it, like $50 for the visit and the medication? And then he would get groomed, and it was like $20. $25 for him to get groomed, versus we were paying like $70 for him to get groomed, and in the hundreds for his vet visit. So, and he loves tacos. He loves tacos. Like, he really loves tacos. Like, and I taught him that, but like he loves tacos. But even him, seeing the change in him, for us it was refreshing, so I would share it on TikTok. So for your fur babies, it actually has served him well.
Wow.
We are a community-based channel. We believe in our growth and process through interaction with others making this journey with us. When Dee and I started this page, and I guess for those who are new, maybe it's a point of closing out how we close out today. When Dee and I started this page, we started it out as this is what we'd like to do, help us do this. And we continue to be, that continues to be our driving force in this process. For those of you who don't know, we have not moved abroad. We've not found a place yet. We're currently in Mexico. Matter of fact, we're wrapping up because we got to go catch our plane to fly back to the States.
We're like Anita. We're dating a lot of countries.
So we're out seeing the world, and these conversations with you and with our guests today help us to establish some of the information that isn't always accessible and just what's out there, especially for those of us as people of color. Please subscribe to Tracy Collins. Please subscribe to Said and Bobby at Aging Grateful. There are in this chat several
a lot of people
people who have YouTube channels. Subscribe to those YouTube channels. Make connections here today, because there are YouTube channels in this chat in abundance, and we are communicating together, not just to get everybody to pack up and leave the States, but to live a better life. Mm-hmm. Everybody's not going to leave. Everybody's not going to find somewhere else to go, but we are discussing ways to better expand our existence in the world we live in. It is an honor to have you all here today.
I want to give Cedric and Bobby a chance if there were, because they did Aging Grateful's channel, they did a whole session on decide on your non-negotiables. Mm-hmm. You all are giving real facts. Is there anything else that you want to put in this space around the reality? Yes, planning is important, but about the reality of the move abroad process and the challenge that we want to make to the concept of soft landing.
It's funny you say that, because that was what I was going to say. I was going to say, you have to be honest with yourself, or you're going to spend more money fixing it later. If your non-negotiables are, just stick with that. You know what you're not comfortable with. And it's Tracy mentioned about the furniture. We had some friends that spent 6-7 months trying to get their furniture from here. They finally got the furniture here. They spent north of 10 grand just to get it here, and be like, we don't even want it. They ended up giving most of the stuff away. Because for one, the space was too small, and then you being away from that stuff for so long, you realize I don't even just trying to keep this stuff. So those are just things that just little lessons,
And also give yourself some grace.
Yes.
Be patient. Mm-hmm. Congratulate yourself first for the decision that you're making on if you're moving abroad or changing and having a better quality of life. Congratulate yourself for that first. And then give yourself the grace to understand that this is a journey. We're not trying to run a race. Nobody's trying to make it there first. It is that we are trying to develop and learn a new way of living that we hadn't had before, and just celebrating those wins. And that's what I would say. And community is everything, guys. Community is everything. This community it is beautiful. And we've really built some really great relationships through this. So just give yourself the grace, because we do piggyback off of each other and get these great ideas and support one another. I know we're on this YouTube and everything, but we all do real life after this is over. And being able to have a community to be able to do that with is everything.
Wow.
We don't know if you can hear, but the parade is going down the street. I know it's not us drumming, and we're in a secure building, a room inside the building, and the drums are outside. There are hundreds of people walking down the street right now. That's why I keep looking over my shoulder. Dad and I don't want him to take my chilaquiles from off the table out there. But I am so honored to have these conversations with you. Tracy, thank you. Sid and Bobby, thank you so much for joining us. We are, stop, like this video, don't wait till it's over, like it now. When we're gone, share it with others so they can come back and we can have this conversation even offline. Please subscribe to our channel. Please subscribe to Tracy Collins. Please subscribe to Aging Grateful. Please subscribe to Global Granny. Please subscribe to Black Women Build Wealth. Please, can I keep going? Scroll through the chat, they're in there. All these are real pages, all these are real people. Because we are a community together and we grow through this process. For those of you who came over from Stephanie, this is not our regular time, but we're getting ready to get on a plane and we didn't go live last Saturday. So thank you for stopping through. Stephanie is great.
Yes, she is our people.
A great part of making this process grow. So rolling from her to us after she was done is thank you so much.
Absolutely.
We love you all. We'll make contact with you. Watch for the videos we shoot out as we go. We're H&D Abroad. I'm Herman.
I'm Dee. Y'all have a good rest of the Saturday.
And we'll see you all on next week. Y'all hold on for a minute while we close out.